Hey everyone, Dennis K here with Belize Islands Real Estate. Hey, listen, I received this email from a client just yesterday, and the questions they were asking, I imagine a lot of you who haven't been to Ambergris Caye yet, you may have the same questions, especially when it comes to looking at different neighborhood, build costs, closing costs, sort of like a Belize 101 when it comes to real estate. So, of course, going to keep their identity a secret because I don't know if they want me to plaster their names all over the internet, but I did want to go through their email quite in depth because, again, there's a lot of good questions being asked here that I think my viewing audience would want to know the answers to. So, if you're just starting your research regarding Ambergris Caye real estate or Belize real estate in general, and maybe you haven't been to the island yet and you just have some general questions, I think this video is going to be very helpful. All right, so let's start going through the email. First of all, they say they're looking for an investment in land. So they want to purchase some land and they want to yield a decent ROI, financial return on investment. And this is some good information right here that they provided. They're looking to build quite yet. This is at least about 3 years out, and they might not build at all, but they might just turn around and sell the property for a profit. All right, so actually, this is a pretty good way to take a first step at investing in Belize is just finding a nice piece of land that's in an up and coming area that is maybe even slightly under market value and being able to pick up that property and then ride the wave of appreciation that a certain neighborhood is going to be experiencing, either just through general appreciation because prices are going up or because something is happening in the area. If the area is in the path of progress and it has an additional reason to appreciate, like maybe some roads are coming in, or maybe it's becoming more easily accessible, maybe some power is coming to this particular neighborhood. So definitely be on the lookout for those areas in the path of progress. And I've talked about that extensively in other videos. So let's go to the next paragraph. It talks about the general topography of Ambergris Caye. In their email, they said that they noticed there's a lot of mangroves around the island, and there is absolutely some standing water in the interior of the island because the maybe proper drainage hasn't been put in yet, or the subdivision of land that you're looking at just happens to be in a very low part of the island anyway that is going to require fill. Now, their question has to do more with the being able to build on a particular lot. All right, so a geotechnical survey, some sort of plot test. Right now, just to give you an idea, the entire island of Ambergris Caye is very flat. It's a coral atoll. And just because you see some standing water on a property doesn't mean that the property is swampland. So it's not like you're going to walk onto it and sink down up to your neck in muck. Most of the time, the bedrock is just maybe 6 inches, a foot, 2 feet under the surface. So even if you pull up to a property, let's say south of Secret Beach or north of Secret Beach, and you notice that there's 6 inches or even a foot of water on it, underneath that foot of water could be absolute solid bedrock, and most of the times it is. And you can easily find that out by just walking out there, maybe with a iron rod. And if you want somebody to do that with you that has experience with these types of properties, you can just hire any surveyor or any builder to walk out there with you, and he'll be able to tell you right away, is the property able to be built upon? And I have not seen a property yet that has been surveyed and up for sale that you cannot build on. Every single property has been, because again, just under the surface, almost in the entire island of Ambergris Caye is solid bedrock. So you can build on that solid bedrock, either going down with a wood post or even concrete post. Sometimes you got to go down a few meters, a few feet. I've seen properties where you have to go down maybe 10, 15 feet with, solid concrete pillars in order to build on, but builders are used to doing that. So very easy to get that done. Regarding budget, they're talking about a budget of around $45,000. And yes, that is US dollars. So almost all real estate websites advertising Belize property does have pricing in US dollars. All right. So anything you see on my website, on our YouTube channel, on Israel's website, all the Remax websites, the pricing is in US dollars. And they want to know, are there any lots in that ballpark of $45,000 left? Yes, there are. So what I would recommend for that price point is look at areas around the Grand Belizean Estates subdivision. You might be able to find a few in Palmyra Woods and in Grand Mayan. All right. I believe the other subdivisions, Secret Beach and let's say South Key, those, I believe those are much higher now, somewhere around the $60,000 mark. But that 45, you can still find those in the Grand Belize area and in some other areas. For example, if you bump up just a little bit more in price to around the 55, 60 range, you can get some very nice properties on the northeast side in the Punta Azul South and the Punta Azul North subdivisions, which again are on the east side facing the Barrier Reef. So you can get a fourth row for around 50,000 and a fifth or sixth row for around that 40, 45,000 range in one of those subdivisions. All right, for financing, you're wondering about financing. Most of the time, you can find vacant land available with seller financing. The seller financing could be offered through a developer, or it could be offered through an individual seller, individual property owner. Most of the time, you're going to run into a scenario where they're asking for the typical 10-10-10 scenario, 10% down, 10% interest on the balance for up to 10 years. You can find, though, some sellers willing to go 20 or 30 years, kind of stretching out the payments a little bit. But the good thing about it is in Belize, almost any loan that you get, either through a developer or a seller, means that there's never any prepayment penalties and you can pay off the lot at any time. So you can use the financing for a year, 5, 10 years, all the way up to 30 if they're offering a 30-year mortgage. So regarding construction, all right, here's some more questions regarding wood houses versus concrete. First of all, they ask about why so many homes on Emmer's Key are built on stilts. And this is true. So if you drive around the Secret Beach area, maybe back in DFC, one of the other local neighborhoods, you're going to find that most homes are elevated, maybe 10, 12, even 15 feet. There's a couple of reasons for this. Number one is just for the breezes. So the winds typically come from the northeast. They come right across the island because it's a flat island and you get beautiful breezes, which help reduce the cost of your air conditioning and provide, just overall comfort level in the home with those nice tropical breezes flowing through. Number two is if we get some really heavy rains, the mosquitoes can be a little bad for a few days. That's an on and off thing, just depending on the month, depending on the rains. And if you elevate the home a little bit, you get above that, what we call the typical mosquito line. All right. So that also makes it much more enjoyable to sit outside, enjoy your deck and veranda, and just enjoy the morning sunrises and evening sundowners pretty much bug free. So that's another reason there. And then finally, just for heavy rains themselves, so if you get a lot of rain one day, several days in a row, you might have a little bit of water in the yard, depending on your drainage and landscaping, but getting the house elevated a bit, you don't have to worry so much about that. So those are just a couple of the reasons why most people elevate. Now, you don't have to by any means. In fact, if you drive through one of the most popular subdivisions on the island, Mahogany Bay Village, you see all those homes are built basically at grade, maybe just a few feet above grade. So it's not necessary, but a lot of people that are building individual homes do tend to elevate them a bit. Again, beautiful views, especially if you get up a bit, because the island is so flat and you get to see so far. If you just build up maybe a story or two, I highly recommend it. All right, they talk about a portion of the island being off-grid. All right, so the island itself, the island of Ambergris Key, actually has power. We have a line that comes over from the mainland, a power line. So San Pedro town and going all the way down south has connection to city power. And then on the north side, the northeast side of the island, we have power that runs from San Pedro all the way up to Margaritaville and just past. So that entire area on the East Coast is on grid. Right now, for the time being, the West Coast is what is off grid. So the Secret Beach area, the subdivisions that I mentioned, like Grand Belizean Estates, Palmyra Woods, West Key, all that, that's all currently off grid for now, but the time will come when power is ran to these areas, especially as they developed. Regarding water, again, places in and around San Pedro town do have access to city water and city sewer. But as you get out a little further, especially on the north side, northeast, northwest, your water will be by means of rainwater cistern or a shallow well running it through an RO system. And your septic will always be a self-contained septic system. And to give you an idea of just how well all of this works, is that when you cross the bridge, just get a little bit, maybe a few blocks past the bridge going north, everything you see, houses, condos, homes, hotels, everything up there is using either rainwater or wells for their fresh water and self-contained septic systems. So our builders really know how to handle both freshwater and wastewater. And most of what you see on the northeast side, again, is hooked up to city electricity. But everything you see being built on the West Coast, including all the bars and restaurants and very nice high-end homes at Secret Beach, that's all 100% off grid. As far as cost, I don't have a ballpark figure to give you because it really depends on the size of the house, your electricity usage. So for that, you'd have to work with a builder. But what I can do is just give you overall build cost per square foot for a completed home. So right now, out of concrete, we're looking anywhere between 210 and 250 US per square foot for concrete. It used to be that wood was a lot less, not anymore. Cost of wood has really gone up, especially since the pandemic. And if you're kind of deciding which one to go with, unless you're going with a Mennonite home, which you can build on the mainland and have shipped over, relatively low cost. If you're just going to have something stick built, maybe custom home, I would go with concrete. All right, it's a little more durable. It doesn't look as I would guess soft and pretty as a Belizean hardwood home, which fits really well on the island. But concrete does offer advantages. Obviously, it holds up to storms a little bit better, and it's a little bit more wearable when it comes to some of the heat and humidity. Also, insurance cost. All right, so if you're going to insure a concrete home, it's about half the price of insuring a wood home. And over time, that can add up. So the last thing they want to talk about is growth, overall infrastructure and growth. So when you drive around the country of Belize, you'll find that neighborhoods tend to grow very organically. And that is, unless a developer comes in to fully fund a project, typical neighborhoods like Grand Belize, like, all these neighborhoods north and south of San Pedro town, anything that is just a subdivision of land tends to grow very organically. What I mean by that is roads come in as people can afford to put them in. Same thing with some of the other services and amenities. Regarding sewage, again, that's all taken care of because even in areas that have very high density, we have very good self-contained septic systems, so that's not an issue, and we do not have the environmental damage caused from that. You don't have those issues. What you will find, though, is that some neighborhoods, especially local neighborhoods, will improve in these things over time. So, for example, San Mateo. San Mateo is a local subdivision that was formed, I believe, back in around 2004, 2005. At the time, the entire subdivision was underwater. There was no electricity, there was no sewer. Now, when you drive through there, they have paved roads. The lots are nice and filled. They're high and dry for the most part. It's a nice little community, right? So, but it took a long time for it to get there. Other places like Grand Belize and Secret Beach, they're also going to grow organically. And the good thing about these neighborhoods is we're seeing some very nice homes being put in. So it really adds value to the surrounding properties. And then finally, they talk about the beaches. All right, so the beaches are not like the beaches that you find in Cancun or Tulum or Florida, Miami Beach. We don't have those, a block or two of sand. Because the island of Everest Key is so shallow, the beaches tend to be have a lot of bedrock at the surface, and the water leading up to the beach tends to be very shallow. So, for example, on the east coast of Ambergris Caye, the water is very, very shallow, out for 100 yards. I'm talking like maybe 6 inches, a foot, 2 feet deep. And so, because of that, it has a lot of natural biodiversity to the water itself. So, there's a lot of turtle grass. There's a lot of other types of grass that grows there. So, not what you really think of when it comes to a swimming beach. Now, some resorts on the East Coast do manicure their beaches a little bit and make little swimming areas for their guests. Las Terrazas does this, Cocoa Beach, Ramon's Village, a couple others. But typically, people don't come to Ambergris Caye for the beach. If they want to swim, they'll go out snorkeling, they'll go out diving, take a boat out, take a kayak out to the reef. They'll do those types of things. But there's very rarely swimming done from the beach on the east side. On the west side, it's a little bit different. So the west side, or secret beaches, that doesn't have any of the turtle grass, doesn't have any of the sargassum, and the waters over there tend to be sandy right when you walk in. The thing with the beaches, though, there's sand, but there's also a lot of bedrock right at the surface. So I suggest bringing water shoes. But when you look at some of the videos and pictures that people take while they're at Secret Beach, you see they have tables in the water, they're eating, they're drinking, the water park's there. On any given weekend, there's 500 people swimming off the beaches of Secret Beach. Again, you won't find that on the east side. All right, well, there you go. So the reason I chose to answer this email the way I did is because, obviously to try to get on a one-on-one call with someone who has never been to the island before and go over all this information in detail, number one, it would just take a long time for each individual client to have this conversation with them. So what I like to do with these videos is to just kind of like answer their questions. So I know I'm going to obviously send this to the client. They're going to have time to watch this, take some notes, and then come up with additional questions so that when we do have a one-on-one call, it's extremely productive. All right, so we can spend 15, 20 minutes together, maybe even a half hour. But instead of just answering the overall basic questions, we're cutting right to the details that they need to know in order to decide, is Belize right for them? Should they be looking somewhere else? Or if Belize is right for them, which property or properties should they be looking at? Right. Hey, and I just remembered I didn't answer a couple of the questions regarding closing costs. Let's kind of go back up there. This right here. So general questions about land taxes. Okay, so vacant land in Belize at Ambergris Caye, you're looking at anywhere between 70 and 150 US dollars per lot per year. So about 150 maximum US dollars property taxes per year. Once you have a house on it, your property tax can be $250 to about $400 a year. All right, and again, those are US dollars. Closing fees. So typically closing fees are 10% of the purchase price. And how that is split up is you have a stamp tax of 8% that is paid to the Belizean government. And then typically your closing company charges 2%. So 8% plus 2%, you have 10%. Add that on top of any property you see, and there's your out the door costs. So if you're looking at a property for 50,000, add 10%, 55,000 is generally your out the door cost. As far as red tape, no red tape as a foreign buyer. So the one good thing about Belize is that they give equal property rights of ownership and ease of purchase to both locals and foreigners alike. So the process is exactly the same, and you don't have to jump through any red tapes. And one thing about Belize compared to other countries that it's good to know is that Belize does offer full ownership. So you get fee simple title, just like what we're used to getting in Canada, in the United States, and Great Britain. All right, because it is based on British common law. Belize was known as British Honduras, and so the original structure of the government is based on British common law, and that translates into offering fee simple title to both locals and expats. So do you need to know anything else before buying? Well, I think I covered everything. So let me know if this was helpful. And then when we jump on our one-on-one call, maybe we can highlight some specific properties in that 45, maybe to 50, $55,000 range. And if this works out for you guys, I'd be happy to help you make your first investment in Belize. All right, thanks a lot for watching. I appreciate it. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon.